Hi, good morning. How's everyone doing? Good morning. Good to see you guys. Sorry I'm late again. I promise I am not a sickly person. I'm just not feeling the best, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to spend time with you because good morning, because I look forward to this with you every single Saturday. So thank you so much for being here, guys. It's fall and I'm so excited. I'm so excited I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now and that it's cold outside. I don't know wherever you're at, I don't know if it's cold, but here in Arkansas it's a little chilly and I love it. So I am so excited to have this day with you just to talk and hang out. If you've never been here before, basically this is just a small Bible study. It's kind of based off of what I talk about on Wednesdays. Good morning, thank you. That's kind of based on what I talk about on Wednesdays. So on Wednesday, we talked a lot about, knowing what's important in life. What does it really mean to have a full life, or what are we supposed to be focusing on? And I talked about relationships. I talked about loving God and loving others. That's the most important thing. And when we do that, we can let all these anxieties that we hold, we can let that go, right? So today, what I kind of wanted to talk about goes with that, but then it adds a little. Hi, how are all you doing? Thank you all so much for joining. But basically it kind of adds on to what we were talking about. I said last week or on Wednesday, you need to know what you believe, why you believe it, or I said that you have to, that I was saying that you have to love God and you have to love others. And so part of that, I want to go deeper into that. And it's not just, okay, love God, love others. That's easy to say, right? It's easy to say, yeah, I love God. All right, I'm good. But when it comes down to it, when the hard stuff happens, when we face hardships or our relationships are failing or whatever, that's when it gets hard to love God, right? There's probably moments in your life that, maybe right now you're going through where you feel like, God, it's so hard to love you right now. If we're honest, we can say it's so hard to love you because my life is in shambles, because I feel like you're not there for me, like you're not helping me. So today what I want to kind of go off of with that is, yes, we need to love God and love others, but we need to think about, how do we truly love God? How do we do that? How do we truly fall in love with our relationship with God? And in order to do that, I really feel like we have to know, I say this all the time, but we have to know what we believe and who we believe in. Like, we have to know that in the core of our existence. We have to know why we believe these things, because if we don't know why we believe these things, then our belief or our love for him will fade when times get hard, right? And then I want to talk a little bit about having courage to do that. And then also about a message I got about this whole topic. So let's start with prayer, and then we're going to talk about first, 2 Timothy. I'm going to talk to you a little bit from 2 Timothy, and then we're going to go to Matthew. So, all right, let's start with the prayer and we'll get started. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this time with these amazing people that have taken time out of their day to stop and spend time with me. Lord, I'm so humbled by that. And Lord, I pray that you would just give me wisdom and that you would speak through me to them and soften their hearts to hear your voice. Thank you, Lord, so much for everything you've done for us. We love you so much. Amen. Amen. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This past week, I do a Bible study where I go to a Bible study and I just hear and listen. And we talked about 2 Timothy, and I thought that this would be a wonderful addition to what I was already going to teach on. So basically, 2 Timothy 1 through 2, I think 13, basically talks about taking courage, because Paul is Timothy, it's the book of Timothy, is not Timothy writing, it's Paul writing to Timothy. And so Paul, if you don't know who Paul is an apostle. So he was a follower of Christ. He's a really cool guy. We'll talk about Paul more sometime. But basically, this dude has written a lot of the New Testament. All right, so like a lot of what we believe as Christians, the New Testament, he basically wrote and talked about what Jesus taught him. So Paul is writing to Timothy. Timothy's a young dude that is in the church and doesn't really know, okay, am I really ready to teach? Am I really this guy that can talk about God? And Paul's saying, man, you can do this. And it's awesome. He's a great encourager to Timothy. But what's cool about this whole letter is that that Paul is at the end of his life. He knows he's about to be, he's about to be killed because he is in prison. They've imprisoned him, and basically they give him a death sentence. He's been imprisoned 1,000,000 times, but this time he knows. This time he's like, I'm gonna die. And so he has courage, and the way he finds courage, and so I just want to take a minute first off and think, imagine yourself in that situation, okay? You were imprisoned because of your faith, because of being a Christian, you've been imprisoned, and you know that you're about to die. And how, in that moment, of any moment, how easy it would be to say, no, I don't really believe in God. I'm kidding. It's all false. I don't really know. But Paul is, he's so convicted by how much he loves Jesus. He knows that Jesus is real. He knows who he believes and what he believes in. And that's kind of what I wanted just to say for a second, is that's Paul says, I don't know which verse it is because I'm looking for it right now. I think it's 2 Timothy 1:12. But he says, I know in whom I have believed. He knows in whom I have believed. I know what I believe is true. So basically he's saying, I can die for what I believe in because I know who I believe in. I know that it's truth. I know that I was supposed to follow this person and teach others about this person. So if I die for my cause, if I suffer because of it, I will do it anyway. So I'm going to rein that in a little bit. We're not on trial. We're not going to, someone's not going to come and say are you a Christian? I'm not saying that. But what I want to say about that is how much conviction that would take. Knowing he could just say, no, I don't believe in God, and he could save his life. But he refuses to do so. I want that kind of unshakable faith. I want that kind of faith where I know no matter what I face, no matter it feels like life is turning its back on me, it feels like people are turning their back on me, I'm so unhappy, or I'm depressed, or my relationship fails, or whatever, insert whatever it is in your life that's really hard. No matter what that is, I won't turn my back on God because I truly love him more than anything else, because I know what I believe in and I know why I believe it. And I think that is probably the most important key. So now I'm going to kind of go over to Matthew 22. We're going to read from Matthew 35 to 46. So Matthew 22:35. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law of the prophets. Now while the Pharisees were gathering together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, what do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. He said to them, how is it then that David, in the Spirit, calls him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet? If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day anyone dare ask him any more questions. So before I talk about that, a little bit before this, I want you to read this. If you have time this week, try to read the whole chapter. I just didn't want to have to sit here and make you listen to the whole chapter. But, two important things is, earlier in here, he gives a story about these people coming to a wedding. So he gives this whole imagery, because back then weddings were a really big deal. I mean, they're still a big deal, but they're a really big deal. And so he's talking about how basically the Christian faith it's like a wedding. God is saying, hey, come to my party. Come hang out with me. Come live life with me. And then he says that some people will reject it. Some people won't come because they just don't want to. They just go do their work every day. They go do everyday things, and they don't really want to pay attention to God. Then he has some people that come, but then some people that come and don't really appreciate it. And he's talking about the people who don't appreciate it, he wants them to leave as well, but it's the people who truly care and love them and want to be there. Just like at a wedding, you want the people that truly love you to be there. And he's saying that few, what does he say? He says, many are called, but few are chosen. And that's Matthew 22:14. And so that's kind of what I wanted to stick on for a second. You've been called, right? We've all been called. God wants all of us to be saved. You've been called. And there's a moment in your calling, and I think there's a time in your calling, and maybe throughout the calling, that you start questioning a little bit. You start doubting. So this is where I want to bring in this message I got this week. A girl messaged me and basically was like, hey, my boyfriend doesn't believe, like, I don't know, but he, I've been firm and he's never really said anything about it. But now all of a sudden he's questioning me. Like, is your God really real? How do you know? Is heaven even real? Like, what do you even do in heaven? Just starting to question her. And it made her start like wondering, like, well, is it? And I think all of us have that moment where we're like, is heaven real? Is this really real? If what is all this stuff that I'm doing, all these prayers I'm writing, all this stuff I'm reading, is it really real? And I want to tell you that it is. And not just because I'm just saying that, but I want to say that it's real because you and I both know that if you've been called, that you have felt God in some way. You have felt him in some way that maybe no one else would think that was anything, but you specifically have felt it. You felt that little tingling inside of you, or however it feels to you. But for me, it's like I can feel that, like, I remember whenever I knew that I should be saved, and I knew I should be saved like in college. I just felt my heart beating fast, and I knew that he was real. But then in the hard times, it's easy to be like, wait, I don't know, maybe he's not. Or when people question me. And so what I told this girl is like, I want you to write down, and I want all of us to do this week, and I thought I should do it too. We need to write down those moments. The moments where we question, we need to write down the moments that we knew for certain. God revealed himself to me. God showed me that he was real. Jesus showed me that he was thinking about me. And it could be the most simple thing but you know that it was God speaking to you. You know it was God showing you love in some way. Write those things down so that you could remember, so you don't forget in the hard moments. Because it's easy to forget in the hard moments. I've been there, I get it. But we have to know what we believe in order to finally find joy, in order to finally feel conviction like Paul and say, I know in whom I believe. I know in what I believe. I know what I'm speaking is truth. In order for us to know that it's truth, we have to truly find that conviction within ourselves. And sometimes that's going to take us writing things down, right? And make us writing things down and not questioning it. Like looking at those things, remembering when I'm doubting, I know God was there for me in this moment. God pulled me to him in these moments, right? And so that to me, again, that takes courage, right? It takes courage to say, like, to your boyfriend, yes, heaven is real. It is. And I understand why that might be hard, but God's done so many things for me. And to not sugarcoat that and to be strong in your convictions. And it takes even more courage to know that possibly in telling someone that, like this girl, she may lose a relationship, but then also having the courage and the belief to know that God's still going to take care of you. If I'm in this girl situation, it'd be easy for me to be scared that if I tell him that I believe these things, that he's going to leave or he's going to think it's stupid or whatever. But at the end of the day, if I truly believe God will take care of me and this guy won't love me because of that, well, then I believe that if he leaves, God will come back, show me someone else. God won't let me be alone forever. So if you're in a situation like that, and I'm not talking about marriage, but I'm talking about if you're dating somebody and they are bringing you down in that way, they don't believe, they don't want you to believe, they want you to not necessarily be strong in your convictions, they're not bad people. I'm not saying the person that you're with is a bad person. I'm not saying you have to break up with them. But I was in that same situation. I told y'all, if you haven't watched my testimony, I've talked about this. I had a boyfriend just like that, and I prayed and I said, God, am I supposed to be with this person? And that was the point that God, I feel like, first revealed himself to me and said, and basically was like, no, Helen, not supposed to be with this guy. And I'm not saying that maybe you are, but for me, I knew I wasn't strong enough in my faith yet to be able to pull someone else up. And I really believe that's why God says, find someone that's equally yoked, somebody that believes the same as you. It just makes everything so much easier. And I know it's easier said than done, and it hurts, and it's going to be really hard to break up with that person. But I can promise you, as somebody that's gone through a lot of pain, a lot of breakups, it's worth it. It's worth finding someone that has a heart for Jesus as well. It's so hard to be with somebody that doesn't believe like you, thinks what you believe is silly. At least like when you are with someone that believes in God, you can go to that person and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. I'm doubting. I'm needing help with this. And that person can help you. And you're going to need that helping hand every now and then, So basically, I'm coming back to this, to now Matthew 22:37. What I love that verse. And he said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. 38. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And so that, to me, I told you on Wednesday, that is our purpose. That's what really matters in life. Love God, love others. Everything else falls in after that. Nothing else honestly matters except those two things. And when we can get those two things right, that's what gives us the courage to stand up in those moments when people make us doubt or when people question us. So those moments, that's what's going to make you, in the moments when it's hard, when you want to give up, not give up. That's what's going to make you say, okay, God, I want to change. I'm not happy with who I am now, but it's going to be hard because I'm going to have to break a lot of bad habits. These are the verses that are going to help you with that. I mean, these are the verses I prayed to myself over and over and over when I was going through my transformational period. When I wanted to change, I said, God, I will love you with all of my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul, with all my strength. Every part of me is going to learn to love you. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt at times. But I can promise you, nothing makes you happier than getting these two things right. Nothing in this life will ever make you happy except for getting these two things right. And when you get these things right, everything else is better. You're happier, your relationships are better, things in your life go easier, you're a harder worker. There's just everything goes better when you get these two things. And it's not easy, but nothing in life is that's worth what? That's worth it, right? It takes time. But I want to encourage you, wherever you're at in your walk today, whatever you're facing, whatever you're struggling, whether it's a hard relationship, a hard marriage, financial issues, whatever, sickness, whatever. I want us to come back to these two verses this week. Write them down, put them somewhere. Write down when was that moment that God called you? When are those moments you remember seeing God for a second when He's spoken to you? Write them down so that you don't ever forget. So in the moments that you doubt, those hard moments when you get kind of scared because you're like, what if this isn't real? You can go back to those things and you can be like Paul and you can say, in the face of whatever danger, whatever issue, whatever hardship, you can say, God, I know in whom I believe. I know what I believe is truth, and I will love you more than anything, and I will love my neighbor equally. That, if we can get that right, will better everything. So I want to pray for you this week that if you're having to make some hard decisions, I've had to do that before. I had a pastor one time say that. He basically preached on breaking up with people one day, and he was like, so if you have some hard decisions, but he was talking about all things. He was like, if there's something you need to cut out of your life in order to do this, if there's something if you need to cut back on some things in order to be able to focus on God and strengthen your relationship, because if this truly is the only thing that is going to make us happy and we know it, then we have to start focusing on it. And so this week, I'm coming back to that. I'm coming back to just the simple. I love how Jesus makes things simple, and that's what He said. Stop thinking about all these other things that you can do, all the charities you can donate to, all the volunteer work. Those things are great. But I want you to learn to love me more than anything, so when the storms come, you'll know I'm there. So I hope that has spoken to you. I know I was kind of all over the place. I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about and say. But if you get a chance, read all of Matthew 22, because it's just a lot about, I think, Jesus is trying to tell you how He wants you to love Him, how He wants you to look at your Christian faith. It's just a great standpoint of all different aspects of Christianity. And then it ends with saying, love me, Jesus, more than anything else. And I promise everything else, I got you, So I guess that's really all that I have to say today, but I really do. My heart goes out to every single person with hardship, going through things right now, dealing with a lot. If you have some hard decisions, if you need to cut some things, whatever it is, I know I have some things that I need to work on, and I know that's going to be hard, but I believe that God will help us through it, because I believe that I know what I believe, and I know that it's truth. So if you're having issues doubting, it's okay. Just come back here. Timothy had issues doubting too sometimes. And so I just want to tell you, God understands that we doubt. but that doesn't mean that we just doubt and don't do anything about it. That means we can, if we have problems doubting, we come back here and we read and we read our Bible and we spend time with God and we pray and we write out prayers and we try. And so the last thing I'll say is if you are having issues doubting, having issues loving God more than anything else, a great book that I really loved that I read, I've talked about it a million times, but I read it whenever Craig passed away, and it was Imagine Heaven. It's not cheesy at all. It's written by doctors, and that's why I like it, because I don't like cheesy little stories, you know, but I really like this one. And it just helped me answer some questions, and it helped me just kind of come back to know that God was real. And it wasn't that I didn't believe that God was real. It was like I wanted to know for sure that Craig was in heaven. I don't know, when he passed away, it was like I knew God was real just because of how much God had taken care of me through it all. But it was like I kept telling God, I just need to know. I just need to know he's in heaven and I'll be okay. I just need to know it. And a woman gave me this book, or recommended this book to me, and it did so much for me through my grieving process. So I want to recommend that book to you if you haven't already read it. And I don't know who the author is because I've given my copy away, but it's Imagine Heaven. So, all right, well, I think that's about it, and I love you guys so much. I would love to hear any other questions or any other, I love getting messages and helping answer those, because that's how I decide on what the topics are for these. So I would love for you to send me some more messages on topics and issues that you would like me to talk about, so I can help you and find places in the Bible that maybe could help you through that. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be here next Wednesday for Coffee and Convo at 9:50. But next Saturday, I am doing a speaking engagement in Sheridan, Arkansas. If you're in Arkansas, if you want to go, I'll be in Sheridan. And then later, I have 2 speaking engagements. That's in the morning at 10, and then I have another one in Van Buren that evening. But what I was going to say is I won't have time for Coffee and Convo, but I might make my, try to make some of my speech live. So I won't be here doing this, but I'll post about whether or not I'm going to be able to do a little bit of my actual speech live for you guys. So you get to kind of have still a Bible study. But if not, then I'll be sure to do an IGTV for you guys. And I think that's about it. So I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please send me messages. I want to hear from you guys. I love it. And if you want to ever recommend this to your friends, I would love that too. I'm just reading everybody's messages. You're beautiful. Good morning. Cold in California. Yo, awesome. You're watching from California. That's awesome. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you guys. Y'all are quiet today. So, well, I hope that I helped you, and I love you. So I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye, guys.